Well. So that presser had a hell of a lot in it. A lot of it we won't be particularly happy with because, of course, we won't be happy with it because it wasn't particularly the best of news. Because Leeds United have learned that we might be without two very, very important players for the coming match against Norwich City. So what I'm going to do is I've got a bunch of notes that I took from the press conference. I'm going to be your Wayneman equivalent today because he's always really good at these, and I hope that I can do similarly good. I'm only doing this because he's doing some Lego. Enjoy your Lego. But yeah, big stuff to discuss. So we're going to start with the biggest of the stuff, which is the injury updates. And you see, previously I'd written some stuff like on Willie Nomto, on training at 10. Now, this is just straight up injury updates because the way that Adam Pope framed it was, do you have any changes that you are planning to make? And in addition to that, are there any changes that have been forced upon you? And it immediately seems like there's a couple of changes forced upon Daniel Farke. I say this, they're both apparently 50-50s. They might make it to play, they might not make it to play, but it's not fantastic. He specifically started by saying that the turnaround was not too bad and it could see a little bit of rotation in the side just to make sure that people are staying fresh and happy and healthy and all good. But then we got into the further details. He said that Brendan Aronson looked okay today, but will be a late call on whether or not he is able to play this match coming up, which is a little bit on the spooky side, but it should be approximately okay. It was an impact injury to his ankle, so he took a hit. That was before he came off. He was just holding his ankle, sat on the ground, nursing himself, trying to make sure that he was doing okay. Then immediately came off the pitch, which made me a little bit spooked on various post-matchy bits, but we can hope that things are okay. And Daniel Farke's statement on that was that he is carefully optimistic, might be able to make it to play, but isn't necessarily looking the most promising. The potential injury that looked a little bit worse was that of Manor Solomon, who is a little bit more of a doubt, in my opinion, at least judging by the tones and wording that was used by Daniel Farke. Specifically, he mentioned that he had some problems in his hamstring, which is always fun. We love a good hamstring problem at Leeds United. Let's ask Pascal Struijk, for example. Love to see it. It didn't seem like one that's definitely going to keep him out, but Farke said that he'll be assessed more over the next day or two. Hello, Anna, how are you doing? And hello, Danny and only Leeds Bros. Hope we're doing well. And said that he will be assessed more in the coming days, and at the moment he's a little bit of a 50-50. Not said as the most optimistic of things, but we have to be a little bit hopeful in this situation, which means that the conversation is a little bit more spooked and a little bit, what are we going to do if things do end up in the bad direction? And I think what I'm going to do at the end of this is I'm going to run through a little bit of a predicted lineup for this match because I think there's quite a lot of interesting stuff in here. Next up, we need to talk about what was said about Willie Nomto. But before I do, if you're not yet, subscribe to the channel. That'd be massively appreciated. Pop a like on this stream as well so it gets pushed out a little bit. That'd be genuinely fantastic. But in addition to that, if you've got any questions, whack them in the chat and let's have a little bit of a discussion about them because it's quite interesting. I enjoy just bouncing off the chat and seeing what everyone has to think. Even when it's Sean. Hi, Sean. Gavin, the last time we got some positive news was on Sunday, about 2 o'clock when we won 3-0. Now, that's the thing with football, and you're not always going to get good news. The good news comes in results. The bad news comes in you don't have the players to get the results anymore, and occasionally there'll be transfers. But in terms of transfers, we've not had any bad news right now either, so I don't know. Pressers don't tend to have good news because good news is just things are normal, and you don't hold a press conference only to say, yeah, it's about the same as before, isn't it? Because at that point, it's kind of pointless, you know? First Bamford, then Struijk, no Solomon, they're all dropping like flies. That's the thing, though, right? I'd agree with you on the Bamford and the Struijk. Fair enough. Nightmare hamstrings. But outside Bamford and Struijk, the thing with the Solomon issue is that it's currently a 50-50. It's currently a maybe he'll make it. And a little bit of me, a little sneaky bit of me, wants Solomon to not be playing on Wednesday. And this isn't because I don't like Manor Solomon. Manor Solomon is, in my opinion, on a technical level, the best player in this side. At least his ceiling is colossal. But we've got the depth to rotate him out. So if there is a potential niggle with a hamstring and it might keep him out, we could always just say, no, we'll just play someone else instead because we have someone else there to play. You don't have that conversation with Aronson, but that being an impact injury, I think is a bit different. I think the best way to manage these muscle problems is to say, cool, you don't have to play on Wednesday. And then, as said by Monkey Spy, it's Burnley next. We can probably just do that. And we can hope, and we can maybe it'll be fine. It's all good. But there was a little bit of discussion on Willie Nonto as well. Adam Pope asked, "Are you happy with his development? Are you happy with how things are going for Willie Nonto?" And specifically, he said not only is he happy with his development as a player, but as a person. He said that he's getting a little bit more professional behind the scenes. He's becoming quite good to work with, and this, I think, put the stopper on what a lot of people have been saying on Willie Nonto recently. You've got a lot of stuff about people saying, he's just forcing an exit and all that sort of stuff. You don't, when you ask the question of how is Willie Nonto's development coming along, you don't need to say anything about the professional side of him. You can just go, he's doing really well on the pitch. So that tells me that there's a little something behind that of he is genuinely becoming a better professional behind the scenes. So as much as people are saying he's not performing because he doesn't want to be here, I don't think that's going to be the case, especially if Farke goes out of his way to say he's being genuinely quite professional. Like, tell me if you guys disagree on that, but I feel like going out of your way to say that personally he's doing really well and improving as a human being as well is a positive for me. And it says that behind the scenesy stuff isn't necessarily happening as badly as we like to think it's going to be. In terms of his on-pitch stuff, he's become very happy with the way that he's playing a lot more mobile on the pitch. He specifically mentioned he's not currently a winger that just receives the ball and plays it off and then waits to receive it again. He's moving into those sort of more central 10 positions, making things a little bit unpredictable for other sides, and noted that he's becoming more involved, more lively, and ultimately unpredictable. And that is what you need to see from an attacking player. If your opponents don't know what you're going to do next, if you're just sort of floating across the line doing stuff that works, it's impossible for you to be marked. You become harder to mark, harder to challenge, and harder to block shots off. Because at the end of the day, we're against championship defenders here, and they are not the most footballing intelligent players that Willie Nonto has played against. He's played in the Premier League. He's played at an international level. So to think centre-back from Sheffield Wednesday are going to be the problem isn't the case. And he also discussed a fair bit on the fact that he's not been playing much recently, but he's had some of the most starts of the wing positions this season because he played a lot earlier in the season. And he might not be in form at the minute, and Farke specifically noted that his end product isn't what he wants it to be. He's sort of lacking that at the minute. But everything around it is working pretty reasonably well for Nonto. And that says that it's not a case of what people think of, we're not going to play Nonto, Farke doesn't like him, all that sort of stuff. It feels like it's exactly what it was earlier in the season when people were chatting about Manor Solomon, when people were chatting about Ramazani not getting in the team. And that happened in the end. And it's a case of, right now, we got a lot of quality on the pitch and they're doing pretty damn well. They'll rotate out for chunks. Farke's not someone who swaps out week in, week out. Farke's someone who does, okay, you can have a few matches in now. And I think that is ultimately what we'll be seeing with Nonto. He'll get another stint, as will Ramazani. And then Solomon will again, and James will again. It's just not happening instantly. And I think we'll pop back to that sort of method of rotation a little bit later on. I'm going to hop to the comments for a second, though, because I've just had a little bit of a dive through Willie Nonto. I imagine very difficult for quite a few reasons. One, we are squeezed a little bit by PSR at the minute. Just because, I mean, we know we are. The amount of selling that we had to do in the summer in order to get things to work. We don't really want to mess with that because a lot of people will just say, just break PSR, it doesn't matter. Yeah, sure. What happens if we don't go up in that case? You get pummeled with points penalties, and you definitely don't come up the next season. And then you've got to look at players of the right quality looking for a move. I mean, we're looking at players that are lower mid-table Premier League players. At the moment, clubs that are in that position are going to be saying, okay, we kind of need you to stick around in case you're playing quite well, because if they would play well for us, they would play well for them. And if they would play well for them, they would be playing. And I think that's the reason that Buendia is the only real conversation that's being had. It's someone that has so many things working against him at the minute. So injury issues, playing at a club that's Champions League level, not getting minutes anyway, they've signed another attacking player. That's just a pile of stuff that says that you're not going to get minutes if you're Emi Buendia. You need to find a move. And it's quite rare to find players that have all that stuff stacked against them. And it doesn't happen. It just adds up in that way. And it's very, very tough. I think it's clear Wilf is happy at Leeds for now. He has real competition, which of course he needed following last year's slow death from Easter due to lack of depth. Yeah, like if you're a player and you're not happy with competition, then I don't know if I necessarily want you to play at Leeds United. Partially because if you're in that position and you're playing for Leeds United, you're someone that doesn't want to push yourself to the next level in order to get minutes. And I don't think that's who Nonto is. I think Nonto is happy to earn his spot as he was last season, because I can see him not being particularly happy when we kept him after we didn't go up. Nothing that he could do about it. But the fact that he's currently here, his agent's not kicking up a stink, just very helpful. I'll be live until a little bit before 5 o'clock, because at that point I need to make tea, eat tea, go to football. Well, get ready for football, go to football. So it's a tight time squeeze, but I'm managing to squeeze this stream in. Going for about, another 20 minutes-ish. And prices get up because there are not many players available because everyone's sort of settled at their clubs. Being too critical of Nonto and Aronson in general, I think the complaints about the scoring a bit confusing for me. Right, the confusing part about that is Aronson is scoring, right? Aronson is not doing anything wrong for me. Look at goals this season. Aronson, second top scorer. Nonto, equal fourth. We're doing okay. We're doing all good. We're not in the worst of spots right now. Like Aronson scored 7 this season, and people are unhappy with his end product, and it's like he's doing loads. He should have gotten an assist for the Solomon goal. He didn't because it hit the keeper. But I think it's a bit rude to not give him that one. Squad game, 4 good wingers, 5 good midfielders, some other good players elsewhere. We're getting promoted. Yeah, this is where I'm feeling, to be honest with you. What's your argument for last summer when we needed a 10 and left back and we didn't get either of them? Because we needed a hell of a lot of other positions first. We needed a right back, which we got. We needed central midfielders, which we got. We did a lot of business last summer. And the PSR point still stands. And we did get a left back. Isaac Schmidt is a left back. We got those players. And in addition to that, we added Woba back to the squad, who plays as a left back. Yeah, we didn't get a 10. There's an argument that we did because we got Aronson back in. But those things happened. We just didn't go further because we don't necessarily have all that cash. Well, we have the cash. It's just the regulatory limits. Yeah, it's just sod's law. We don't go up if that happens. I thought we controlled the game very well yesterday. Sheffield Wednesday didn't look at any. Yeah, they didn't have any actual chances, which is good. And a nice veggie pasta, which is good. This is pushing it, though. Ruteo got like 20 assists last season. Said at his last conference it wasn't an issue anymore. Fair enough. Yeah. Who would start in the front four against Norwich if Solomon and Aronson are possibly out? I will get to that in a few minutes once I've gotten through all the main points and we're into a nice little questions corner point. But it does link in to the next bit of training a number 10. He said he hasn't trained anyone specifically to play as the 10 today. Honestly, that's completely fair enough. It's just good to have someone to like bounce off. He said no training to be a 10 today, so we've not tried that adjusted shape immediately just because it's a recovery a recovery session. We played yesterday. The players that weren't involved and the players that stayed on the bench will be the ones that are training today, so it makes a little bit of sense. Just make sure everyone's fit. It'll be a case of either early tomorrow or late this evening of doing scans and stuff and saying, okay, cool, do we need to train someone else in the 10? And we'll work out from that point onwards. Yeah, he also said he'll run a proper team session rather than just saying, "Hello, everyone is going to train about you being a number 10," because at the end of the day, you're just losing an entire session for everyone else if you're teaching one person how to do one role within that system. So I think it's going to be a case of general team training session, but if Aronson is unavailable, you say, "Can you slot into that Aronson position?" And that sorts out that problem. Which is fine by me, to be completely honest with you. Like, that's the sort of thing that we need to be doing. Just make sure that everything in the system works, and you can just swap out cogs, and then it works okay. He then had a little bit of a chat about the Norwich City match and was asked specifically if it's a good time to play against Norwich. And he did the common sense thing here. No manager at any point is going to say, "Yeah, I really love that we get to play this team whilst they're struggling," because then if you lose, the media goes, "Oh, we're going to destroy you, buddy." And thankfully, we're not in that position because he specifically said he expects them to be highly motivated, playing bravely and with a lot of intensity. Coming into it confident, very assuming we'll win would just be a mistake to me. He rates them very highly, and he said that you can see them having a late playoff push when their injuries are resolved, when Sainz is back. And honestly, I can see the same. Norwich are not a bad side, got a decent manager, and I'm kind of glad that we're playing them when we are because they're missing a lot of footballers at the minute. But I'm going to have a little bit of a pop back to the chat. Let's see what everyone's thinking. Currently think centre back is a priority. I think it's going to be one of the priorities. I think we have 2 or 3. I think first thing I'd sign would be a 10. Then I'd look at not just a centre back, but a centre back that's got experience at fullback and is of a decent standard. Omobamidele would be the example, but we don't know what sort of direction that's heading in. Did you see what Georgie did when scoring a stay at Old Trafford? I saw that he scored. I didn't see what he did. So let me know. I'm kind of curious now. I've got to find this out. It's great. Front 6 needs to be James, Rothwell, Tanaka. Why are you formatting it like that? Nonto, Ramazani, Joseph. I don't see it being that, but I will go into what I see it being. And then have a little bit of a natter on that. Love a veggie pasta bake, though. Good choice. Lamb stew's not a bad shout. Could be worth a go. Kayla's not a fan of lamb, though. Thinks it's a bit on the gamey side, I think. Lige is good from a central position. I think the same. I think he can do that, which is nice. Does that mean Vobba won't be playing centre back? I do not know, to be honest with you. I don't know if he is properly seen as a centre back. Maybe sort of like on the left hand side of a back 3, but I don't know he's an out and out centre back. I think even with no new signings, we go relying on luck, injuries, etc. But the squad's going well. Yeah, honestly, I mean, we've been saying from the start of the season, we've got the best squad in the league. I don't think after Sheffield United signings, that stopped us from being the best squad in the league. I'm happy with where we're at the minute, to be completely clear with you. Especially when there was a little bit of conversation about the dynamic with the recruitment team. He said the dynamic with them is very, very good. He's worked with everyone in the team regularly, so there is a youth team academy management guy that's in the recruitment squad at the minute. There is a scout from last season that he worked with a hell of a lot last season. But again, there was that focus on club culture in this particular little bit of conversation, which I really like that Daniel Farke focuses on from time to time, just because it's sort of putting the club in that primary position. Specifically, he said that he likes that they have the white blood in their veins, and being brought up through Leeds United means they understand the club culture, they understand what the club needs, what the club feels it needs, and are the right people to get the club pointing in the right direction for the foreseeable future. Having those people in place is key, in my opinion, because it means that you've not just got the knowledge of the players, because obviously these people are going to know the players that they're scouting, but you've got the knowledge of us and who is going to fit properly into that culture. Because a big part of a player coming to a club is, do they suit the vibe and the culture and what everything looks like? And a good example of this would be Weston McKennie, right? Who currently is playing in Serie A at a very, very decent standard. But he came to Leeds, and with his best mate that couldn't stop tweeting, with the fact that he didn't seem to be in the best of shape, with the way that he sort of seemed to be on social media, with his general sort of demeanour, didn't suit that culture. So I think having those people in the recruitment team that know that culture, that understand what fans value, means you're going to get that connection between players and fans way more quickly. You're going to get everyone being a lot happier with the structures and the systems. Players are going to get familiarized a little bit quicker, and it just makes things easier. It means that those massive wastes of money happen less. I'm not going to say we're completely immune from them because that would be stupid, but they happen less often, and it puts us in a way better position to be a lot more comfortable going forwards. And it's a good place to be for me. And that was followed by a little bit of a chat on Junior Firpo's future, and there was a little bit of Firpo and Gruev, but I'll get to that in a minute. And surprisingly, it was mentioned that Daniel Farke is not having those conversations, partially because there's been a hell of a lot of games recently. It's been basically 2 games a week for a while. It will be for a little bit as well, which is annoying, but that's sort of the way the Championship is. I love that Premier League sides, by the way, that will get knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League, having played an extra 8 matches, are like, it's too much football, man. We can't handle this. And it's like, every other league does. Every single other division in English football manages. And you've got the best fitness coaches, and you've got the biggest squads. How about you just deal with it? It'll be okay. Instead of, scrapping FA Cup replays. Because apparently Tamworth aren't allowed to have any fun. But on the Junior Firpo's future thing, he apparently wants the player to focus on his rehab from the injury issues more than he wants him to focus on contract talks. That makes perfect sense to me, purely because, obviously, but at the same time, I don't know if those talks would necessarily ruin the fact that he's on the road to recovery at the minute. Like, either way, his body's going to be coming back. And my worry on this front is, I don't know how to explain it, but the fact that he's saying that he's not diving into getting this conversation done as soon as possible maybe indicates to me that his future is decided and his future isn't necessarily going to be at Leeds. I don't see Firpo being here past the summer. I wish the absolute best for him until that point, but I don't think beyond summer Junior Firpo is necessarily sticking around. He also said that January isn't the time for those chats, but simultaneously, January is the time for those chats if you are Real Betis, if you are someone else. And I think he's not going to want another season in the Championship. If we go up to the Premier League, he's not necessarily going to be at the standard. You put those together and you say La Liga in the summer, but make sure it's a bang-in 6 months, which I think it absolutely will be. I have no doubts that he's going to be at his best the moment he's fit again and will want us to get up. And I agree with West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Betis could sign a pre-agreement. They absolutely could. Yeah, anyone that isn't in the UK right now can sign a pre-agreement with players with 6 months on their contract. And I think for Junior Firpo, that's going to be the case. I don't know whether or not it's going to have been decided yet, but I think that's the direction we're going to be heading in. And I'm not too bothered about it. Like, I like Junior Firpo. I don't think it's an ideal move for us to keep him past summer. It's just about making sure that in the time that he's still here, you've still got those existing levels of focus that get us promoted. Because at left back, he brings something different. He brings something special. It's just about getting him back in the side and playing consistently. And hopefully, his eyes aren't too hard elsewhere. But there was one final topic of conversation before we hop over to Questions Corner, which was about Firpo and Gruev's recovery. Specifically, Firpo and Gruev have had some minutes recently, so Firpo had a little bit of football in the Harrogate match. Really, really good to see him. And Ilya Gruev's recovery was helped by minutes against Sheffield Wednesday, which is always good. He had 20-odd minutes. He came on the 68th. There was a bunch of added time, so we'll have had 25, 30 minutes, somewhere in that area. And Gruev's genuinely, I agree, Gruev's looked decent since he came back. And But the issue is I don't see him necessarily forcing his way into the side because we've got really, really good midfielders. In the same way that you could see a winger and say, yeah, but who do you take out? We're genuinely ridiculously strong across the middle of the park and the wings. And at fullback, our depth is obscene. So it's going to be hard for any of these players to get their way back in. But you've got to hope that they do, because that means that they've managed to prove themselves excellently. He did say that it's not that easy to get them back, but it helps with their general recovery from fatigue. That, like, Ilya Grove has played a lot of football over the last year, and him being out for a little bit means that all of his other muscles that aren't injured have the opportunity to sort of get more okay again. On the opposite side, with Junior Firpo, he said that you need to be a little bit more careful just because he's got a little bit of an injury history. And if we're able to sort of wrap him up in bubble wrap and make sure he's okay, it'll all be fine. It'll all be good. And yeah, he said thankfully there's a good amount of competition in both of those positions, and neither of them are too far away from being able to start a game. So, with that in mind, I'm going to not go to Questions Corner just yet, but I'm going to run through a predicted lineup. Let's be honest, it's going to be Meslier. I wanted Darlow in the match before, but it didn't happen. At this point, I'm just sort of fine. It's going to be Meslier. You might as well get behind him. Probably the same back four. Probably the same two central midfielders. So Bogle, Rodon, Ampadu, and Byram. That's his name. Tanaka, Rothwell. And then the front four is where it gets complicated. I'm still going to go with Peru because that helps. Still going to go with James on the right. But if the two players that are injured are unavailable, that's where you need to make the decisions. And the ones that I personally think would need to be made are chucking Nonto in on the left, because I think that's where he's best. And then Ramazani in the middle, but you let them be flexible. You let them shuffle about, because you've specifically said earlier in the press conference, Nonto is more mobile on the pitch, not too static, not a winger that stands and waits, he's unpredictable. If we've got Ramazani and Willie both saying, well, we can both play 10, we can both play on the left wing, how about we just sort of float about a bit and it'll work out? You do that every day of the week, because they're going to cause a lot of problems for the Norwich backline, because it's not a first-choice backline, because their entire side has injuries. So I think we're going to be a very, very comfy side at the minute, you know? And from that point, we've just kind of got to hope. But I'm able to do about 4 or 5 more minutes of stream, so I'm going to pop open Questions Corner. Anyone's got any questions, just chuck them in my general direction, and I will happily have a little bit of a natter about them. I do agree with this, to be fair. Like, Tamworth did really, really well. If they would have had a replay at the Spurs ground, they would have made so much money, like multitudes of what they earn in a year. It didn't happen. I love that Sean is quite desperately trying to make an argument here. And I know that he's kidding. But it's based on nothing. Burp only struggled for a season. Not very good for 2. Thank you for pointing that one out, Evie. First season, very, very injured a lot of the time, and had very little time with Bielsa. And then it was Marsh, it was Gracia, it was Allardyce. And for 2 weeks, it was Scoops. None of us would want any of those managers back at any point. And also interesting of note, Georgie was dreadful in the Premier League. And it turns out, under an actual manager, plays quite well. And when it comes to the Farke stuff, the reason that Farke struggled, again, was he had 0 investment. His biggest signing, if I remember correctly, in the season he went up was Sam Byram. Got a grand total of £6 million. Not good. Also, yeah, Firpo was sort of killed by Marshball, because Junior Firpo's entire thing is, I will hug the touchline, I will bomb on, and it will go really well. And under Marsh, it's, let's be really thin and narrow, the goal's in the middle. Well done. All of your wingers can't play their normal game now. Your wingbacks can't play their normal game now. Dolt. Anyway. Yeah. Do you have a points target you think Leeds need for top? On this one, with Nanto being better on the right, by the way. Going to address this quickly. Yes, Nanto is better on the right, but when your attacking options are... We've got 3 forward players and we need all of them on the pitch to play behind the number 9, because you need to play, assuming Solomon is out, you will need to play James, Nanto, Ramazani. You lose so much of Dan James if you move him off the right-hand side that I think you just commit to it. Probably the better move. Do you have a points target you think Leeds need for top 2 this season? I think matching the BL season of 9 losses, 9 draws, and win the rest will do it. I'm going to quickly do the maths on that one. Leeds United, no, fuck it, Championship 19-20 season. And let's take a look. Yeah, 93 points would do it. I'm fairly sure, at the very least. I think we're going to be on for about 95 if we keep up as we are keeping up. And I think we have enough depth at the minute that we won't bump into the Easter problem that we did last time, because a lot of that came from Rutte constantly playing through an injury. And at that point, you're like, well, shit, we've got one outlet now, and that's Somerville. Give the ball to Somerville, hope he does something. And that didn't work either. So I think we won't have quite the drop-off we did last season. And at that point, we hit 90 anyway. I think 95 is realistic as a shout. How do you say we don't get Buendia? Who do you think we get then? I don't know, but I'm genuinely unsure about Buendia having the right profile. Yes, he's a creative 10. Cool. But the reason that Piru works at the minute is Piru does a lot of running. No, sorry. Piru doesn't do a lot of running. Aronson does. Does Buendia? Or is Buendia more of the passing guy? I don't know what Buendia's press is like. And I think off-ball is just as important as on-ball for the way that we have a number 10. Because whilst a lot of people say that the way we play is boring and controlling and all that kind of stuff, yeah, sometimes, but simultaneously, the reason we have so much possession is we win it high up. And do Buendia and Piru necessarily do that? I don't know. And in that case, you need Dan James on the right-hand side, so that removes your flexibility out wide. Whereas if we get a 10 that can do creative stuff, but does also do a lot of running, that I think is the perfect outcome for us at the minute. That's how we get to where we need to be, I think. And I don't know if Buendia fits that specific profile, but who knows? We'll find out. We'll be fine. Like, it's okay. Just having a quick look through the chat, and it looks like Evie and Sean having not an argument, but like a little peace conference, and I quite like that. Good vibes. I like how good the vibes are in this chat most of the time. Genuinely wonderful. Bogle James partnership doesn't need disrupting. There's this as well. Yeah, they understand each other at the minute, and messing with that is danger because they're doing good stuff now. Don't make them not do good stuff. It's been a long day. I've got some stories from today. Yeah, Evie is quite. Evie knows her stuff. I hope not joke, it's the Leeds with drop off. It is, but I am a little bit confident this time out that it won't necessarily happen. Problem is, if we lose Solomon and Aronson for any length of time, we become short unless we play 2 up front. Emi works Joseph. He does work with Mateo Joseph, but then you're missing the finish of Piru. So it's that weird balancing act of everyone saying we want square pegs in square holes, but it's like, cool, these 2 pegs are attached to each other. So let's just lift out these pegs, and we need to replace the other 2 pegs that are attached to each other and slot them in instead. Which just, we become a lot less flexible, I think, unless the person that we sign has a very, very similar way of working to Aronson. It's complex, basically. Also, I'm going to skip the ads that it's telling me to do because I'm about to finish up the stream. But yeah, I love Denchip. I think we all do, and we all also love Tanaka, and we do have a squad, and I love that. I love that we've got an entire team of players where we can go. This is fantastic. We can just swap players. I don't know. We could do that. Last season, you're looking at the bench and like Joffy. Whereas this season, you look at the bench and you go, oh, okay, Ramazani on, Nanto on, Joseph on, push, Schmidt, on you go. And it's just so much more depth, and I really, really enjoy that. Anyway, what I'm going to do is, because I need to go and make some food now, is I'm going to bring this stream to a close. However, before I do so, I'm going to do what I've been liking doing recently. And I'm going to do a quick redirect. Now, if you are here, I'm going to assume that you are already subscribed to Only Leeds Bros, but if you're not, the redirect is going to take you over there. All you need to do, pop a like on the stream that I'm sending you to, subscribe to it, because I want to see those lads get to 1,000. And we will. They will get there. We've got to keep on pushing. So if you're not subscribed to them, go over and do that. I'd be appreciated. All you got to do is wait. It'll redirect you, and then all you got to do is click the subscribe button, and it's all sorted, and it's all good. And if you're not subscribed here either, subscribe here as well. It's lovely. Just keep pressing buttons. It's great. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, become a channel member, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I will see you later. Toodaloo, gang.